Samba is a TV and data and analytics company. We have a piece of technology that we collaborate with the chipset manufacturers and the TV manufacturers and TV brands to put a sensor in the televisions with consumer consent to help understand what's on the TV, to then power TV guides, search, discovery, to improve the consumer experience by understanding all of the things that they watch on their TV and help to bring all the data together to make it easier to navigate the multitude of channels that we have now at our fingertips on television.
Right, so does that bring up a lot of privacy concerns, especially with all these new laws that are coming out, like CCPA and GDPR in Europe?
Yeah, it's a great question. So with those new regulations in place, now more than ever, being responsible in the way that you manage consumer privacy is not just the right thing to do, it's now mandated by this regulation. So from the early days of Samba TV, going back to circa 2008, every bit of data that we've ever collected has been with very prescriptive consumer consent and creating a value proposition. So the data, not only there to do better advertising, but to make the experience, again, as I mentioned before, navigating this very, very broad universe of options, especially over the last year with all these new streaming services coming out. The connected TV is becoming the hub of entertainment for most consumers. Yeah, so the sensor in the TV processes everything that's displayed on the glass, whether it's a video game, a movie, a television show. If you get it over the air, if you're casting onto your television, you're using a OTT device, our sensor is ubiquitous in terms of the content that it can recognize, as well as advertising. So that's where the utility really becomes important downstream in a B2B perspective for an agency or a brand or platform or programmer in having that deep, representative, holistic view of how people are using that television to consume content, but also how they're exposed to advertising. And it's a really important signal from planning all the way to media effectiveness measurement or post-campaign conversion in really understanding that true experience, where traditional incentivized panels or single source data is very difficult to use. Our data set is collected from now over 20 different television brands globally, from over 25 million opted-in households. So it really is one of the most comprehensive and representative, not just of viewership behavior, but also of geography, demography, all of the other attributes about who's watching. That's very important. We just recently did a study and looking at different brands within our portfolio that we are able to collect data from. And when you do simple things like reach and frequency analysis on a campaign, you get very different answers from individual data sets. So for example, Element or Seiki or Sony, some of the brands that are in our portfolio, they have different geographic, they have different demographic bias, so you get very different answers about what the reach, what the frequency was. So having the context of being able to see in the US across 10 different manufacturers, there is organic distribution and representativeness, and then you can start to bring in census data and other attributes to normalize that and make it projectable. If you're only looking from one lens through a single data set that may have some significant geographic and demographic bias built into it, it's really hard to build that, to train that model to make it representative. So multi-source data, we think, is table stakes. The core components are TV viewership, TV ad exposure, and then also an identity layer and device graph. Because just having TV data in a silo is pretty difficult if you can't connect that to the digital devices. So the use cases really are for targeting. How can I improve my understanding of who I want to reach, what environment they're in, and what's going to be the most engaging creative within each format and environment. On the other end of the spectrum is measurement, and having an understanding of those ad exposures in digital, whether it be mobile, tablet, desktop, in connected TV, which is becoming an increasingly difficult platform because it's all based on IP. It's not cookies or mobile ad IDs anymore. And then being able to bring that all together. So definition of who the right customer is in planning to activation and digital platforms, and then holistic measurement of linear, connected TV, and digital to get a good sense of what is the effectiveness of the media are really the primary ways that we interact with the business side of advertising. Yeah, so we developed our own device map and we acquired a company called Screen 6 out of Amsterdam about a year and a half ago, and they built a graphing solution that helped to resolve at the household and at the individual level between those different environments, cookies, mobile ad IDs, IP address, which hadn't been done at scale. So we are now doing that and helping to resolve, not only are these all the devices in the same household, but giving a mechanism to now bring data into those IP environments like connected TV, which we've talked a lot about the growth, being able in a privacy compliant way, bring customer first party data or relevant third party data into that environment. So again, I think, developing the relationship with the consumer from the onset when they're setting up their television, so getting that consent early, but also down the line having all of the mechanisms to be able to not only manage data and privacy, but giving that mechanism to be able to get the TV into those relevant environments like connected TV for targeting and for measurement.